On Production is brought to you by Wrapbook, the production industry's only on-demand payroll platform. With Wrapbook, you can pay your crew with a click and track all your costs in real time, all in one place. To find out more about how Wrapbook is transforming the way productions pay their crews, visit wrapbook.com.
Welcome to On Production, brought to you by Wrapbook. Today, I'm excited to have Georgia Skinner, a trailblazer in Hawaii's film industry, join us. Georgia leads the state of Hawaii's Creative Industries Division, where she champions the growth of Hawaii's creative economy and supports its film production sector. From her own unique career in TV productions under Norman Lear to pioneering initiatives in film and digital media in Hawaii, Georgia has made significant contributions to the industry. Today, she'll share her insights on Hawaii as a filmmaking destination and the benefits of its film incentives. Georgia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cameron. That's great. I love the introduction and really happy to join you today.
Well, I'd love to jump in, Georgia, and know if you could share how kind of your unique background in the industry, especially with working with a legendary figure like Norman Lear, shaped your approach to leading Hawaii's creative industries.
Yes, I grew up in Hollywood, California, and in 1980, actually moved to Hawaii, directly to Maui, and now working on Oahu. But that experience, growing up in the time that I did in Los Angeles, we had access to internships and all kinds of opportunities that, here in Hawaii, people don't have. So what really helped shape me in my career was mentorship. And whether it was Norman Lear or people that I studied with, for example, at a community arts center, Barnsdall Junior Arts Center in Los Angeles. Many of those experiences really powered me inside to be a person that wanted to tell stories and use the various mediums, whether it was music or film, moving image, still image, to really touch people. And so that was kind of a mission, but then it became a career. And learning at the hand of Norman Lear and his incredible team of writers, producers, directors, and actors, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I was the first female sound mixer in network television in primetime, and also the first to be nominated for an Emmy, so it was quite an honor. And I think when you work on a series like All in the Family, Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, and others, it provides you with a very high level of expectation and professionalizes what you do, both in work and privately. Norman treated every person the same, whether you were above the line or below the line. And that unique experience translates here to recognizing that there are very brilliant and bright students of all ages, life learners as well as young people on all islands, particularly in the rural areas. And I just have a passion for elevating them to make them successful and bring those resources to Hawaii, because eventually everybody comes here.
That's tremendous, Georgia. Could you elaborate on the role of the Creative Industries Division in Hawaii's economy, especially in relation to film and media production?
Yes. The division was formed in the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, which is a governor's executive branch. And we were formed by combining the State of Hawaii Film Office and another branch that was more focused on local arts and culture development. So since 2003, the office itself has been building a very strong foundation. I came in 2007 and brought with me, obviously, the experience in media and television production, but also in arts, music, and film, having worked a lot in music sound recording as well. So what we do at Creative Industries is really help the business of the arts succeed. And what that means to film is that we look at how we can better work with our incentive to make it more attractive. It is a very stable incentive. It's been in place since 2006, passed legislation that year. And we continue to improve it and make attempts to do that in spite of the pandemic and, of course, the strikes last year. One of the things that's unique, I think, about our film office is that we have people that have been with the office many, many years. It was originally established in 1978, I believe. And so with that, that was the formation of the first state-managed film studio, which is our Hawaii Film Studio located at Diamond Head. which is a pretty unique location. And up till recently, of course, with the cancellation of NCIS Hawaii, we have never been vacant. So for all your listeners, if you have productions that are interested in coming to Hawaii, we have 3 facilities that are waiting for you. So please, if it has any sun or surf, or it can be flipped to a Hawaii location, we encourage you to take a look at the studio we have here in Kaka'ako in downtown, 18,000 square feet. And then, of course, the 7-acre facility at Diamond Head, and our largest facility in the area of Kalaeloa or Kapolei in West Oahu, and that is 80,000 square feet of stage space.
That's great, Jordan. There's real infrastructure in Hawaii for filmmakers to be extremely successful in the state. I want to pivot back to the incentive really quickly. What are the current film incentives available in Hawaii, and how do they enhance the attractiveness of Hawaii for filmmakers?
I think what's important in the current, and it's been actually on the books for a long time, but improved over the years. So our current incentive is 22% rebate on all production spend that's subject to tax above and below the line on Oahu, and 27% on our neighbor islands, which have vast locations and amazing opportunities to build there as well. They do have some retrofit facilities, not necessarily purpose-built sound stages, but one of those things is, seeing if we can get an incentive this coming legislative year for a purpose-built facility, which is actually underway at UH West Oahu on the grounds of the university there. So they're working on that as we speak. So the incentive in a nutshell, 22% on Oahu, 27% on neighbor islands. We do have a per production cap of $17 million. There's a mandatory split. If you are claiming over $2.5 million, then we do have a mandatory split of that incentive, but only over 2 years. So it's not a lengthy time that you have to wait. We also encourage local production. So the entry level for smaller productions is actually $100,000, and that was dropped a couple of years ago from $200,000. So we like to incentivize both our offshore productions as well as those that are here in Hawaii. We are growing a very robust content industry, and we are very proud to see a lot of them making the big leap into writers' rooms and directing. In fact, one very successful young woman, Erin Lau, who has come from the University of Hawaii Cinematic Arts School at Manoa, she has done a tremendous job, and she had her first crack at directing an episode of Rescue High Surf, which you'll see this fall. In addition to the per production cap on our film tax credit, there's also a annual cap of $50 million. And the $50 million is, a ceiling that we didn't have in place until 2019. So prior to that, there was no. We all have opinions about that, but it certainly hasn't dissuaded any productions coming to Hawaii. And of course, we're no different than any other destination right now, with our industry going through a lot of transitions in terms of attrition, tightening of belts, and seeing really successful shows that are making their numbers and a huge fan base not be able to be maintained here.
Absolutely. Now, my colleague, Ryan Broussard, who's our VP of Production Incentives, sent me some questions to ask you for the sake of the podcast. But Ryan wanted to know if you can confirm if there's any live bills. He said he's heard that there may be some changes to the language on get tax. Any details or insight there?
So in the general excise tax, which is uncommon in most jurisdictions, but it is common in ours, it is part of our structure for revenue generation for the state and for programs. The GET has a requirement to prepay those GET taxes ongoing, and there is a system online that's managed by the Department of Taxation. The Hawaii Film Office and Creative Industries really is the front end to work with productions and navigate the system. We certify your production, and then it goes to Department of Taxation. So there is a new online system that was put in place 2 years ago. This year, there was a law passed to allow ability to cure. And that's important because quite often you don't want to have your entire production at stake if 2 or 3 people who are key players in your production, above the line or otherwise, don't have a GET. That will be disqualified, and it could disqualify the whole credit. So that is no longer an issue. We have, working with the Motion Picture Association and our legislators, been able to pass that, along with the Department of Taxation, who agreed you need the ability to cure, don't pull the rug out from under us. So your listeners will be happy to know that that has been put into law. We'll let you know when the governor signs it.
That's great. Along those lines, it also seems that you and your office would be quite happy in that your program seems set up for success. It's like you have a new sunset for 2033. So a 10-year mandate. I mean, what does this mean for the production community in Hawaii and outside of Hawaii who want to film there?
It keeps our people working. That's the most important thing for us. Our very stellar workforce in terms of crew here have cut their teeth for years on, many, many productions, particularly television, which is a big bread and butter business for us in the state. We love our big features as well and have a couple of those that are still shooting, others coming in later this year. So the long term is key for 3 reasons. One, we want to maintain this production pipeline. Yes, we know there's attrition in the industry, and yes, we know that our industry in general everywhere is going through a transition, but Hawaii is always a sought-after production destination. Why? Because they can trust the crews that are here. We also have somewhat of an infrastructure in terms of stage space and other elements that really help. A lot of production services companies, casting directors, things that you would need, and some post, actually, which is also coming along, and visual effects. And all of those things qualify for the tax credit that we have. So I think that the long term was really to help generate that interest and people to come in a public-private partnership and build a purpose-built facility for not only production, but also to nurture our local production community.
Very, very great. Now, you had mentioned just a few moments ago about caps, how much funding there is, and I want to talk about how filmmakers could maximize their incentive benefit in Hawaii. So I'm curious, first of all, what steps, in your opinion, should filmmakers take to fully benefit from Hawaii's incentives? Meaning, are there kind of common challenges that they should anticipate? Maybe funding running dry, meaning when to get those applications in, what time frames kind of you've seen really are best practice for filmmakers to take the best advantage of utilizing the incentives in the state?
Well, it is important. Our process is probably similar to many other states, and that is a production registration process that comes up front. Let's say that in December, you're going to be doing pre-production. In January, you can submit that production registration form. Don't worry, I'm not going to answer that right now, but it is a busy office, as you can see. And we're also moving, so that's why it looks like this. No. But let me explain. The value in getting your production registration in is important because ultimately, when we call the $50 million, once we receive all of the production reports a year later, that is a predetermined holding spot in the culling order. We do cull with a priority to our lower budget productions. Anything that's receiving $500,000 or less is already prioritized to be paid out. And the reason for that is that there aren't as many, and we know that smaller productions don't have the appetite to carry forward balances like larger studios and larger productions do. And it is fairly common in most destinations. But to set you up for success, make sure your production registration form gets in as early as possible. Also, there's a requirement for start of principal photography. That has to be 90 days, within a 90-day window of when you start. Make sure you note that on your own pre-production calendars and get that to us in time. We have a wonderful tax credit unit managed by an accountant, David Kali'ihokai, and his production support person, which is Brent Onbe. And this is the first for us. This is the first year. Last year was the first year I finally had 2 people. So Creative Industries Division itself manages the film credit. The Hawaii State Film Office manages the interaction with studios and also all of the logistics in terms of productions coming in, permitting, and also marketing of the credit. So the operational aspects are under CID.
That's a perfect segue, Georgia, because I wanted to ask, how does the Creative Industries Division support filmmakers from indie creators to major studios in really navigating production logistics and incentives in Hawaii? I mean, you're just speaking to this a little bit, but I guess really on this logistics portion as well. I'm curious.
It's so important. A lot of our community, the people that are POCs and other UPMs that live and work here, many productions, line producers, directors, producers, EPs, showrunners, all of them have residences here. And so what's been beautiful is to see that exchange of training and bringing up the level of above the line people here in Hawaii. So Creative Industries is very focused on developing more above the line and below the line talent. We do that through a number of ways. The Creative Lab Hawaii program, which will kick off again in the fall. And that is something like a tech accelerator for creatives. In the past, we have partnered with the Writers Guild of America, Producers Guild, and others to really take somewhat seasoned writers, producers, directors, animation development people, and put them through a real year-long mentorship program that at the end has an opportunity to pitch their projects in Los Angeles or attend a major market like AFM. So it really has built a strong cadre, along with our University of Hawaii Academy for Creative Media and our School of Cinematic Arts. So we support them. The other thing that Creative Industries has in particular that doesn't necessarily interface with the tax credit, but the tax credit benefits our local filmmakers because there is a requirement for workforce development, a component of either $1,000 or 0.1% of your spend needs to be a give back to the community, and it's a public school, not a private school, so Department of Education or our public university. And the other is a new 0.2%, which goes directly into something new, which is our Hawaii Film and Creative Industries Development Fund. And the logic behind this is whether we're training people in the school system or we're training them through a number of nonprofits and our Creative Lab program, those people need to be able to then hire on a better, a script writer to be able to polish, get ready for a pitch, finishing funds, all of that. So now we have 1.1 million in an account. We will be issuing shortly a call for submissions to be able to submit for various projects for anything from 5,000 to 30,000 the first year. That's something that I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's something that I'm really passionate about because we heard from the community that went through Creative Lab and others from graduates at the Academy for Creative Media, Hawaii Pacific University, and others that said, but there's no way for us to get money. The banks won't loan us money. We can't finance this, and we're asking friends and family. Well, you can't really build a strong content industry unless you have the wraparound services and the ecosystem to support it. So it's been a mission. I finally have the three things I wanted, which was a strong program to train both crew and talent above the line. Finally, some facilities that we can now use for that training since we're a little dark on a couple of stages, and then be able to have access to capital. So, I guess my work is done here. Kidding. But I love what I do. I have a passion for it. It was my commitment when I took this job, and also when I was Maui Film Commissioner many years ago. It was the idea that I had access to all kinds of opportunities in Hollywood and Los Angeles when I grew up. Kids here don't. And so that was my mission, to find a way. And I'm very grateful that I have this position and the support of the government and the legislature to be able to do that.
That's wonderful, Georgia. I have just one last question, which is looking ahead to the future, how do you see Hawaii's film industry evolving? I mean, you just mentioned a few, but are there any other new initiatives or changes to film incentives on the horizon?
We had some great legislation this year that we had hoped to pass. And one of those things is grants for Native Hawaiian filmmakers, and running that program in addition to our film fund would be a really important component of what we are building. The other is to attract agencies, companies that are interested in an outpost or a relocation of a unit to Hawaii. So I'll be going to Los Angeles later this year to talk to studios, talent agencies, management and production companies, and also animation companies and VisFX. We're really interested in building a post industry here. And of course, because the post production has always been in the tax credit, we want people to know that, are part of the Rap Book family, that post and VFX count. And if we have a very strong VFX company on Maui, And of course, that's 27%. So something to think about. But those things, in addition to, if it's possible to eliminate the overall cap, we understand that there is a balance that we have to strike. And we know that we need a reliable credit, which, thanks to the new sunset date, has been extended, exploring an infrastructure credit potentially. There's also a City and County of Honolulu Bill 59, that is looking at forgiveness of property tax to incentivize a studio build. So I think that the future looks bright on the location-based business, and it is equally bright and on the rise. Like, you're going to need sunglasses soon, because a lot of our production development people that have either worked in the industry and then now taken off on their own to develop their own projects, even actors that have been here are doing so. So it's a really great time. Keep your eye on Hawaii, because new things are coming, and we welcome you with open arms. And Maui is open for business, just you can't go to Lahaina.
That's really great, Georgia. I mean, you were mentioning also that one of the initiatives, in addition to those that you just mentioned, was related to music. What was that?
Yeah, so Creative Lab Hawaii Music Immersive is a program that's modeled after the media programs. But what it does is, we were really looking for a way to integrate more of our local music and writers, in particular songwriters, into mainstream media, whether it's film, television, features, commercials, international, all kinds of streaming platforms. So we launched Creative Lab Music Immersive 5 to 6 years ago, and it is held on Hawaii Island. And that program introduces singer-songwriters who have a track record, who clearly have been on the rise, and pairs them with producers from LA, music placement companies, and also studios that have their heads of production and music supervision at the table. They get briefs, and those briefs are created by a number of the companies that are music placement companies that come in, and we put them in pods of 5 to 6 people. Everyone gets together in the morning. They have a brief. They've got to come up with the beats, the song, if there is one. If it's a brief, if your audience isn't familiar with it, is, let's see, iPhone needs a hip driving beat that is got a female lead. Go. And then you have to create it. So this creation happens with about 20 people in various pods over the week. It's a week intensive, just like the Creative Lab Media is. The end of that, and quite often, the the samples are already sent. They're recorded actually in a hotel and in some of our studios on Hawaii Island, music studios and recording facilities. And then they're pitched, and they stay in the libraries of the music placement company partners in perpetuity. They have to learn the rights. They have to learn about splits. They learn all of the legal aspects of doing this. And we've booked close to $700,000 in music placement for major television series, including Hawaii Five-0, of course, back in the day, but many, many others. And the biggest one was a 6-figure placement. Came out of the 2019 program right in the middle of the pandemic, when people needed that money most. So that was a huge win for 2 Oahu songwriters. So the integration of media and music is our philosophy, my philosophy, and really cross-pollinating, because, as I think Sydney Pollack said, all of the creative arts are found in film. So we attest to that as well. I think that's a very good way to think about how you position Hawaii as a place to do that.
Right. Well, Georgia, thank you so much. I think you are a wonderful example of a leader who thinks globally and acts locally, and that has a real impact on your community and the world. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing with us all about the wonderful programs and incentives that Hawaii offers to creative people, especially filmmakers. Thanks for joining me again on production.
Oh, thank you so much. And congrats to Rapbook and all the work you guys are doing. Thanks for having me.
On Production is brought to you by Rapbook. With automated time card calculations, real-time production accounting, and payroll you can run with just a click, Rapbook makes it easier than ever to manage your entire production from one login. To learn more about how Rapbook is transforming payroll and production accounting, check out our website at rapbook.com.